Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head up to Stockholm once again, and we're going to revisit a brewery that you saw me review a few videos back, and I was quite impressed with these guys before. And this is a collaboration beer that they've done with a brewery from their native land, if you like. So for this one we're going to head back to Ekerö, to the northwest of Stockholm, and we're reviewing another beer from Nordic Kiwi Brewers. So this is a collaboration beer that they did with the Tuatara Brewery from Wellington, the capital city of New Zealand. So this one comes in, I believe, at 6.5%. It's a sour IPA and it's hopped with Nelson Sauvin. So it should be a really interesting one. That's a little bit different from what I've had before in the other beer, and it's a little bit different from the session IPA that's going to be coming up as well, I'm sure. So yeah, looking forward to this beer. It's cool to see that the New Zealand breweries are making their way over to Sweden, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. I'm certainly looking forward to having a taste of this one. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, link to my other reviews that I've done, both from Nordic Kiwi Brewers and from Tuatara Brewing. Hopefully I can review more from both in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you, and one for all the New Zealand beers that I've reviewed for you as well. This beer will appear in both of those playlists, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then. So first off, Nordic Kiwi Brewers. So Nordic Kiwi Brewers are based in Ekerö, which as I mentioned to you is to the west of Stockholm, and they were founded by two Kiwis, Craig Donovan and Karen Beattie, back in 2016. So apparently they began home brewing because Swedish beer is really quite expensive, but soon they began buying hops from Nelson in New Zealand, which of course is a really well known hop region. They've been producing hops there for around 150 years, and the great thing about New Zealand hops is, one, they've got a really nice kind of distinctive tropical juicy fruit flavour, but two, New Zealand is also hop disease free, so there's no natural competitors for them. So they set up the commercial brewery in a room using equipment that they basically bought from Blocket, which is the Swedish equivalent of Gumtree essentially. It's very, very similar to that. But Karen apparently met his Swedish lady in New Zealand, and the pair later moved to London together, and he spent some time working in the construction industry before moving to Sweden with her. So Karen works full-time at the brewery while Craig is part-time, and he works for Ericsson doing things like sustainability and all this kind of thing. But the niche of this brewery is that they brew all their beers with New Zealand hops. So they're one of the only breweries, or I think the only brewery I've heard of in Europe, that brew exclusively with New Zealand hops. A lot of breweries will use New Zealand or Australian hops in conjunction with the American hops, but as far as I know, the Nordic Kiwi Brewers are the only brewery in Europe using solely New Zealand hops. So it's a really interesting niche that these guys have got, and as I say, I was really impressed with the last beer that I had from these guys, and you know, the New Zealand hops really are pretty special. I loved the New Zealand IPAs and things like that when I was down there, and Tuatara Brewery, who are the other half of this brewery, or this beer rather, were one of the ones that I really quite enjoyed as well. But definitely one of the Swedish breweries that you want to check out, and it is cool to see them collaborating, like I said, with one of the breweries from their home country. So yeah, that's all you need to know about Nordic Kiwi Brewers. Check them out on Facebook. You can keep up to date with the latest goings on, and you can check out their brewery website as well. But one of the really interesting breweries that are around in Sweden at the moment. So anyway, on to Tuatara Brewery then. So Tuatara Brewery were founded by Carl Vasta, and he started out basically brewing in his backyard, but they've now grown to actually be one of the largest craft breweries in New Zealand. But Carl was an engineer by trade, and apparently he built a lot of his early equipment himself, and he was brewing in his back garden looking out over the hills of Ika-a-Māui. So since the small scale beginnings, the brewery really have expanded quite a lot, and they're now producing somewhere around 2 million litres of beer per year. So they're one of the largest breweries in New Zealand, like I said, but you can find a selection of their beers all around New Zealand. They are exporting to the UK these days as well. They're also exporting to the different monopolies in the Scandinavian countries. We get some of their beers through Systembolaget. I know some of them are going to Vino Monopoly as well, and I think some go to Vinböden up in Iceland. I'm not sure if they've made it to Finland yet actually, but the brewery used used the Tuatara reptile, which is native to New Zealand, as their symbol. So these are really quite interesting creatures actually. They can grow to about 80 centimetres long and they weigh about 1.3 kilogram. And the two species of this reptile in New Zealand are the only surviving members of the Rankencephalia order, which is believed to have flourished around 200 million years ago. So this species is that old that it's not officially a lizard, and scientifically these creatures are really of huge interest to scientists that are studying the development of snakes and lizards and stuff like this. But the brewery apparently sponsored the Tuatara enclosure in Wellington's Zealandia Conservation Centre as well, so they really do kind of embrace this symbol that they've got. But the brewery itself is located in Sheffield Street in Paraparaumu, which is just to the north of Wellington on the North Island of New Zealand. But they also have a new bar in Arthur Street in Wellington, which is called the Third Eye, and this is named as such because the Tuatara reptile has a functioning third eye, but I think later it kind of it sort of scales down and it sort of scales over, if you like, but they're not actually sure what the function, scientists are not sure what the actual function of this eye is, but they think it has something to do with circadian rhythms in these species. But both of these venues, the brewery itself has a tap room and the Third Eye, both of them serve food, and you can get a good selection of the Tuatara beers there. And this is in 2017 that this brewery actually became part of the DB Breweries group in New Zealand, and they said they did that to basically get their beers to further afield. So I think they're actually exporting to places like America and stuff like this now as well. But as I say, one of the largest craft beer operations in New Zealand at the moment, and you know, the beer that I had from them before was pretty good, so hopefully the quality of their beer has stayed the same since they've joined that bigger company. So we'll need to see about that. Hopefully I can get out to New Zealand again in a couple of years and try some more of their beers, because I had a really good experience when I was out there before. You might see Rampant Lion Reviews in New Zealand at some point fairly soon. We'll just need to see. But yeah, Tuatara Brewing, one of the New Zealand breweries that you do need to check out, I would say, and they are brewing, you know, a lot of their beers are making it over here to Europe and things like that, so have a go at them and see what you think. But that's all you need to know about Tuatara Brewing just now. Their bottles were always very distinctive because they had the sort of lizard scales on them, and then the bottle cap had the kind of lizard's eye, which was really cool as well. I think they do still use that actually, but maybe they're putting their beers in cans. You need to see. I'm not actually quite sure about that, but yeah, if you get the chance to try some of the Tuatara beers, I highly recommend that you do. But that's all you need to know about them as well. Check out the brewery website in the description below, and you can follow them on Facebook as well. But yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork here on the can. So there you can see Hokitika Hooch, India Pale Ale, this one. It says on the bottom here, epic craft beer from Ekerö in Sweden, brewed with only the finest New Zealand hops. And the one in this one is Nelson Sauvin. And I really do like the artwork on these cans. You know, they've got a really nice photographic background, but they're also putting little bits of the Maori art on it. And if you go to New Zealand, you'll see the little Maori houses all over the place, and their artwork that they do, really, it's very unique and really quite special actually. I love the Aboriginal art that you get in Australia and the Maori artwork that you get in New Zealand as well. But on the side here it says, what's the story? Hokitika Hooch is an India Pale Ale that was inspired by the rugged and wild west coast of New Zealand. It's a collaboration between passionate Kiwi brewers from opposite sides of the globe and showcases the breathtaking Nelson Sauvin hop. New Zealand hops are world renowned for their punchy tropical aromas and intense fruit flavours forced by elements way down in the Pacific Ocean. With grapefruit and gooseberry tones wrapped up in a slightly sour and refreshingly tart body, this hooch is wild char. And there you can see Cairn and Craig in the Maori style artwork there on the bottom of the can. I always think this is really cool. But yeah, without further ado then, let's get this guy open. So it's a 6.5% sour IPA hopped with Nelson Sauvin. Yeah. And there we go. Ooh, you can smell the Nelson Sauvin on this. This smells really, really nice. So as you can see with this one's poured a nice, hazy, sort of golden colour. There's a solid finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head on that. It's not even creamy. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and a good few little ones heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But overall, that looks really nice. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see the beer is hazy, but there is a little bit of a transparency to this one. So yeah, looks pretty much as you would expect. And as I was saying, some of those nice green grapey notes from the from the Nelson Sauvin are just coming straight out of the glass at you, so keep an eye on that. But let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this beer. Oh, that smells lovely. It really does. So yeah, nice green grapey notes, gooseberries. It's interesting that, because they're saying they're only using Nelson Sauvin in it, but you can really smell a little bit of grapefruit coming out of this beer. Maybe it does smell a little bit mango-ish as well, which is interesting. Yeah, you can smell a little bit of the tartness coming out of this one, the sour mash. You can smell a little bit of that just tart, almost lemony sherbet quality too. But nice sort of grassy notes too. There's maybe a little element of a kind of floral character to it, but I think mainly it's a kind of grassy note that's coming out of this beer. But yeah, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma. There's definitely a bit of breadiness in there. Some kind of buttery or biscuity sweetness coming out as well, which is nice. But yeah, kind of pretty much, it smells more like a West Coast IPA, this one, to me, like a West Coast American IPA. But you can pick up little hints of that kind of tartness to the beer from the sort of sour yeast, I guess, that they're using, the wild yeast. Probably Brettanomyces or Lactobacillus, I guess, they'll be using in this one. But yeah, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer. Like I was saying earlier, the New Zealand hops are famed for their fruity qualities, and it really does come out beautifully in this beer. But let's have a taste of this one then. So this one is the Hokitika Hooch, a collaboration beer between the Nordic Kiwi Brewers from Ekerö, just to the west of Stockholm, and Tuatara Brewery from Wellington, at the capital city in New Zealand. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skull, chur, as they want to say. Oh yeah, that's nice. That is a nice beer. If you get the chance, have a go at this one for yourself. Yeah, I like that one. I mean, the other beer that we had before was really nice, the Endless Summer. But this one for me I like this one better. I think it's got a slightly more oily mouthfeel to it. This one, I like how this one's coming across. Yeah, it's interesting because it's got a little bit of the sour quality to it, but it's got a nice little bit of it does have a nice bit of how do you say, it's got a nice bit of that almost West Coast IPA to it as well. It really has that kind of feel to it, which is really nice. So let's start off with the malt base of this one then, so you can feel that nice bready quality. That just blankets the middle of your palate there. On top of that, you can feel there's a little touch of a grainy note coming out of this one, but right in the middle of your palate you can feel there's a sort of biscuity sweetness. It might even be slightly caramel actually. You can feel a little bit of that caramel note just coming out of this one, and as you go further out towards the edge of your palate, it becomes a little bit more kind of biscuity and things too. Yeah, I would stick with that. The malt base is quite simple in this one, but I think it does what it wants to do like really quite well actually. I like where this one goes. On the hoppy side of things then, as I say, the malt base is quite simple, but it does what it needs to do effectively. Back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness there. Just a little touch, but as you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, it just smooths out a little bit, and you get a nice little touch of floral quality to it. There's maybe some grassy notes too, so you can go round the front curve of the palate, and that's where you get the nice kind of grassy notes to the beer. Some of the sort of, there's the little bit of tartness that's in this one is coming out on the edges of the palate, which is quite nice. But yeah, that's a nice beer. As I say, I like how everything's going together in this one. So if you go behind the front curve of the palate, that's where you get that little oily bubble where those nice, juicy, fruity esters start to come out of the beer. And for me, this one, You can feel there is a touch of grapefruit there, and as I say, that's quite interesting because normally Nelson Sauvignon is a very straight up kind of green grapey quality that comes out of the beer. But there is an element of grapefruit to this one, which is really interesting. And on top of that, you get a nice little bit of a green, you do start to get that green grapey note, and it becomes a little bit more gooseberry right on the tip of the tongue, so you can feel the green grapes coming out as you go further and further into the aftertaste, and then the sort of gooseberry flavours start to come out of the beer as well. So it really is quite interesting, this one actually. I like how everything goes together in this beer. But it's very, as I say, in terms of the mouthfeel and stuff like that, and just the general feel of beer, it really reminds me of a nice West Coast IPA. And as I've said in a couple of videos, I really have been missing these type of beers, and that's maybe why I'm enjoying this one quite a bit, because it's got that biscuity caramel sweetness that seems to have gone out the window in favour of the oaty creaminess recently. So a thumbs up to both Tuatara Brewing with this one and to Nordic Kiwi Brewers. They've done a good job of it, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. The one thing I would say about this, and it was the same with the last beer, this one, it's not quite at its freshest. I think this would be, you know, it would be even better if it was just that little bit more fresh, if you like, but as it stands, it's still a really, really solid beer. So well done to both breweries. Hopefully I can get up to Stockholm and try a few of these fresh on tap, actually. That would be really, really nice. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel of this beer then, yeah, mid-bodied, carbonation's quite smooth on this one. It's a little bit oily, which I think is quite nice. You've got a little bit of that tartness, like I was saying. Nice little bit of hoppy bitterness, and you know, in terms of the IBUs of this one, I would say this beer's around the 50 mark. It's somewhere around there, 40 or 50 IBUs, so it's not going to blow your head off in terms of the IBUs. But nice juicy fruity qualities to this one. The tartness kind of adds to that a little bit, and the malt base is well balanced. You've just got a little bit of that kind of sweetness in there. But overall, it's a really, really nice beer, this, and I do like what they're doing with this one. So thumbs up to both breweries involved here. Hopefully I can review more Tuatara beers. Hopefully some of them come over in the small partiers fairly soon. But this one I've really enjoyed, so yeah, hopefully I can get some more from Nordic Kiwi Brewers as well. I'd love to see them brew a stout with New Zealand hops, or a Scotch ale with New Zealand hops. That would be absolutely awesome, actually, to see them brew a New Zealand hopped Scotch ale. I think that would be really interesting if they've got one of the hops down there that's a little bit more sort of berryish. But yeah, a really interesting beer, this one, and I'm glad I've got to review it, so let's leave it at that. So this one was the Hokitika Hooch, a collaboration beer between Nordic Kiwi Brewers from Ekerö outside of Stockholm and Tuatara Brewery from Wellington in New Zealand. A really interesting beer, and I recommend that you have a go at this for yourself. So yeah, let's leave it at that. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from Tuatara and from Nordic Kiwi Brewers, of course, and I'm sure we will return to both breweries in the fairly near future. Make sure you check out my social media, and I will catch you guys later. This was the Hokitika Hooch from Nordic Kiwi Brewers and Tuatara Brewing. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Skål!